right. There was a button that said broadcast. So I
There's
think
always one extra. There's always one extra step.
One extra step, yeah. So all right, we are appearing on YouTube. So people watching.
Oh, so I can actually watch this while it's happening.
You can. It'll have a little bit of a latency, but you can see the chat
so
and see people's nice
Oh
comments.
yeah, there we go.
Words of encouragement. And as always, people who are watching, let us know if something is really off with sound. I did a live stream, one of my first I did for my Patreon members. I didn't like the sound just disappeared, and I was talking forever, and I didn't look at the chat. I was like blah 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 blah. People texted me, and then one of my people who's got the direct contact with me, he called me like, "Hey dude, you've been going on forever."
Oh my God, that's so funny. I see. Okay, so some people are saying hi. By the way, we talked about Patreon at Guitar Summit, I guess it was.
Yes, that was.
And you were kind of just you were kind of just on the fence, and I was just curious since that. Did you start kind of right after, or did you start kind of recently? And how's it been going, man?
Pretty much
How are you liking it?
Right after. So I had one song, a demo song that I did for Strandberg, that I also released as a solo single. So that was the only thing I had. So I just like, oh, this is gonna be my, the key to Patreon. Have something, and then I started, and I had nothing. I hadn't prepared any content at all aside from that one. So first few weeks were really busy.
I bet. Yeah. Well, it seems like you've got a good thing going. I mean, you found your thing pretty quick, and I mean, I've always thought you were such a good educator too. That I think this was like a natural progression for someone like you.
Yeah, I've been sort of
That's cool,
ruminating on this for many years.
Yeah. I know. I was just thinking. I posted my week 250 last week. And I was thinking, holy, just gonna be 6 years since I started doing it. It was basically December 2019, right before COVID happened. I started doing this. And
all right.
I've just been pretty much every week for a year, and it's been great.
That's pretty cool. Relentless. So what kind of stuff do you do on your Patreon? You have your weekly homework?
Yeah. So I mean, it's at 250 weeks, it's kind of just over the years, it's turned into just literally what I'm working on. I still spend some days like 6 to 8 hours. I'll still play guitar all day. So I always have just what am I working on, and it's never anything too difficult. It's just usually like improvising or phrasing or try to listen more, just vibrato and timing and stuff. And I always have something to say about that every week, because I'm always trying, maybe it's new harmony or trying to say the same thing, but with like two different chords or something. And just kind of walking that path. And it's been, I don't know, 5, almost the beginning of 6 years. I'm gonna have to transform it soon, because I've had a busy couple months. And off air, Perry, you and I have to talk about this, because I have some questions for you at some point. I'll call you later, maybe in the next couple of weeks, about the sideman gig. I might have something been offered.
Something coming up.
I've talked about that. Yeah. But anyway, the reason I'm saying that is just because what's happening is starting to take over how I usually treat the homework thing. So I'm trying to think of new ways to invent it, and especially after, like I said, 5 years, it's got to transform. I think it needs to turn into something. So anyway, it's great, and I've seen a lot of the same people for the entire time. In fact, some of the people in the chat I can see, like Jay Smorey and Art and Jim. It's like, cool. Yeah, I know these like I know these people. I see them in my Discord like every week talking about new gear and stuff.
Oh yeah, that's
It's
awesome.
awesome, man. It's great, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if we have any people doing both of our Patreons. Give us a comment if you
Probably,
do.
yeah. I bet you. I bet you. Some of these awesome supportive people. They do a whole bunch of guys. I think some of them do Andy Woods as
Hmm.
well, and a few others. And it's great. I mean, I'm not sure how much you're charging, but I try to keep it as cheap as I just charge $5,
Hmm.
and or whatever, $5 to $10. And if you can get a few people that really are interested in this type of thing, they're supporting multiple artists for $20 a month. It's pretty awesome,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
you know.
Yeah.
And I was afraid too for a while. I was like, man, by the time I started, I felt Patreon was already kind of maybe saturated or something because of the pandemic. Everybody got on board,
Hmm.
but there's enough room. I still found there's enough room for everybody, and there is enough of a community to support it. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
you know,
But I think it's like before I started mine, I tried to look at what other people were doing, what you were doing,
yeah,
and Andy Wood and
yeah,
my friends on Patreon and others, and it seems like the people who are offering, like a personal connection and educational material seems to be the people who are doing, you know, doing doing well. If
yeah, yeah.
if it's only like you're uploading, I don't know, music, for example, like no one cares if you release your
I
solo
know,
singles, which is a
I know.
kind of a shame that's
It
what it
is
is.
kind of crazy. It is crazy. You'd rather invest in the guys who's making the music than the music itself he's making. It's fascinating, but it is what it is. Um, but yeah, I found because I was, I guess, right out of high school, because I didn't go to college or anything. My parents basically said to me, don't come home until you get a job. So I
Right.
started teaching like pretty much right out of high school. So my kind of like formative years, even my late teens and 20s, I was a teacher for like, 6 years or so, really until I started releasing my own music. So doing the Patreon and teaching, it's still it is I don't know, it's like my training in a way, I guess, kind of goes back to that whole thing. Except I'm not stuck in a room with like a sweaty guy.
Hmm.
I can do it all, I can do it over the internet. So I kind of like that a little bit more.
Yeah.
I've kind of all but stopped teaching. Are you still doing private lessons or anything? Are people coming to you and taking lessons?
I haven't really done it for many years, 10 years or more. But
Since
actually,
before Meshuggah?
yeah, I mean, I tried doing online
Yeah.
lessons 10, 12 years ago, and I had a few students,
Yeah.
but no one came back for a second lesson. Not a single
No
student
shit.
came back. And I don't know, maybe I
What
had
the fuck?
15, 20 students and no one came back. So I thought that,
Oh no.
I mean, so I had to look at it and be like, it might say something about me as a teacher and also
Yeah, that's
about
right.
doing it like this. And I think like it has evolved quite a bit since,
Yeah.
the interfaces we use.
Yeah, totally. And
But
I find just even who I am as a person and the way I
sure.
communicate and I used to be so, I guess when I was younger, I used to be so afraid of all of this. Like I used to, I did the video for years. I did all the social media stuff and whatever. But I was always it always scared me. Like it always made me feel really uncomfortable. And
Mhm.
like you said, before we started, there's always still a feeling of like, oh man, the
Yeah.
butterflies.
So,
And
but
I
what
think
happened? What made you like
yeah,
rise
well,
to
I
it?
think it was a couple things. It was unfortunately it was one of them is unfortunate, I guess, maybe, in that you just get beaten down until you just kind of accept it. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. But it was playing. I think it was playing more in front of people, playing live and touring more, and just like meeting people from all over the world and just getting comfortable talking to different people, kind of realizing we're all the same. Everybody's the same. So then when I come and do this now, it doesn't feel so scary just because I've kind of had that, there's like a very unnatural position to be put in as a solo artist sometimes at these events where I'm sitting at a table and I'm about to meet 300 people,
Hmm.
just sitting there and just like, okay, let's go. And you're sitting there, you have a connection with 300 people. So by the time you come back and, you do this, you're like, it's nothing.
Hmm.
But previous to that, I had no kind of reference for being that, um, giving that much, I suppose.
Yeah.
Because there is a certain amount of you right now where we have to give just to entertain.
Hmm.
Just even on a live stream, you have to be, if I'm shopping over here, it's like, oh yeah, glad to
Hmm.
be,
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
pretty engaged.
Yeah, I think for
So
me,
I think it's a skill I learned. It's definitely a skill I learned.
yeah, I think for me it's been. I used to get kind of uncomfortable meeting fans and like accepting being praised, but somehow I feel like
That's
it
tough,
it has
man.
gone
It's tough.
both ways because being in like the spotlight and doing shows and my years playing with Meshuggah, and it's like people have been blowing me up and like you know blowing my ego up and that kind of thing. So
Yeah,
I've had
yeah,
that, but I have also met a lot of people and had that feeling that like we are all the same, and regardless of what level we are or what we do, and there's a humbling thing of even just getting older. So it's like I'm feeling like I have both have my ego inflated and and myself humbled by life. So it's like both those things
yeah,
have come together
yeah.
to give me the confidence to do this.
Yeah. I guess there is just a certain amount of just experience and time. What did you? Because you were in the early days of your son's life when you were doing a lot of touring. Um,
Actually,
how
when
did you like how?
he was born in the summer of 19, and right in the middle of two Meshuggah
Oh,
tours, which ended up being the two last tours I was the
there you
last
go. Okay, so
last year. So I had to go when he was 6 weeks. I left for almost a month, which absolutely sucked.
wow. Oh man, I was going to ask you about that. How? Because I have a hard time leaving. I don't have my wife and I. We don't have any kids, but I
Yeah.
have a hard time. And I've been doing the thing that I do on my own, on my own for about 10 years,
Hmm.
and I just I'm at a point where it's just like it's tough. It's tough sometimes. I've done like these clinic tours. I've done about I think I did
Hmm.
like 50 of them now or so, and it's just some of them just beat me to death. Trying to leave the house. How did you deal with just like were you good on the road? Did you enjoy it? Was it
Uh,
something you
it's
missed?
a bit of both. I enjoy doing it. I especially enjoyed touring with Meshuggah because I didn't have any other responsibilities but playing the guitar. I didn't tune the guitar. I didn't carry anything. Like if I needed someone to change my pants for me, they would do it. Almost to that point. So I didn't have to worry. I could just enjoy myself and not worry about budgets or anything. So I enjoy that. But some of the tours we've done with Scarguitar, when I've been the tour manager responsible for budgets and
Yeah.
all of that, and it's been very stressful. But those tours were before I became a dad, so it was just me and my wife, and that was easier to handle. Funny thing is,
Mhm.
now when I tour, I don't really miss my wife as much as I used. I used to miss her like crazy, but now when I have my 5-year-old, it's him I miss. And because my wife and I, we can talk on the phone and be like, connected about stuff. Whereas my son, he's like, why are you not home?
Oh
So
my
there's
God.
there's a
Oh my
different kind of
God, dude.
heartbreak in that,
Holy shit.
which is why I
Why aren't you
don't.
home, Dad?
Yes, I'm not planning on doing any long tours for quite some time.
Yeah, we talked about that. You were saying even with Scar Symmetry, it's just some smaller stuff, shorter stuff, and
Yeah,
things you're things you were planning, like some festival things and stuff like that.
yeah. So you're feeling a little bit the same. You want to stay home more.
Yeah, I think, well, I don't know what it is, man. I think it's probably a change of just the whole path a little bit. I've got this new project too. I started with Gavin Harrison. He's the drummer.
I know
Um,
of him. Great,
yeah,
great
yeah. So
drummer.
awesome. Yeah, I think we talked about that too. I finished this thing with him, so I'm gonna go out to his place and shoot a bunch of stuff. I don't know. We might. I don't know. It just depends on people's schedules, and things are so up in the air right now, I find. Um, but right now, I actually am home, and I'm home for a couple months. So and I've been home for about a month, so I'm just sort of
Mm.
writing and working on a bunch of stuff, but just really enjoying not getting on, a 5 a.m. flight and
Hmm. Yeah,
just running through a fucking
airports
airport.
can they can suck it.
It's so so you're home for a while then, right? Are you sticking around? You got anything coming up? What are you
Yeah,
doing?
I don't really have anything until May.
Okay,
Uh,
what do you do? Is
uh,
that is that the festival you're playing?
yeah, it's just a festival. We're doing two festivals, like 2 weekends in a row, and so I'm just staying home for the most of the time. I might do
Awesome.
some one-off like jazz shows in Stockholm, where I
Oh,
drive
that's
down.
cool,
It's
man.
2 hours to go there, and I have some fun with friends and go home. So that's pretty
Oh, it's
sweet.
super cool, man. I'd love to see that show. That'd be so cool.
Yeah, no one comes to the shows. We play for like 30 people at a place that
Yeah,
only
man.
takes 30 people, which so it doesn't look all that bad.
Perfect time to really try some jazz. Try
Yeah,
some shit.
but hey, so
So okay, so
the
go
band
ahead.
you're
Go ahead, sorry.
doing with Gavin is that a vocal based?
No, it's actually it was kind of cool. I had talked to him. I've been trying to work with him basically everything I ever do. I've always tried to get him on. He either likes it or yes or no. So it's been no for a while.
Mm.
And I saw that he left, or whatever happened with King Crimson. He parted ways, so he had some time in his schedule, and I had kept in touch with him. So I just emailed him. I said, "Do you want to start a band?" And he was like, "Okay, sure. Why
Hmm.
not?" And I wrote all this music. I wrote, I don't know, but records with the music, and I sent it to him, and I said, "Here's the music," and he liked it. He was like, "This is cool," but he kind of rejected all of it
He
because he
rejected
didn't have
it.
it. Yeah. Because he didn't have anything to do with it. He's like, if I'm
Oh
gonna be in
yeah.
this band, like I gotta fucking work on the music.
Mm.
So
I guess that's fair though, but
yeah, totally. I'm just, I mean, I would just write the music and I would just write it just to write it. Like it doesn't
mhm.
matter for me. But it's just one of those. Oh shit. Um, anyway, so what he would do is he would start sending me like every day, maybe 10 to 20 just bizarre drum loops that he recorded.
Mhm.
He's got this really killer setup at home, so he can just get behind the kit. Everything he does on a vinyl record for like past 25 years. I guess he said it's been done at this house, so he just records the drums. He'll send me like a bunch of shit in 16 or 19, or send me something. It's just a whole bunch of weird shit, like really, really bizarre. And the way he plays too, the way he plays seven is very different from how I would think about seven. So it's always interesting. Anyway, I would just start writing to these loops. I'd write the whole song. I'd send it to him, and he'd retract the drums to it, and it started to take these little shapes. And then we'd talk about the arrangement, and then final song. So it's kind of like my attempt at doing like a Return to Forever, Chick Corea type of
Oh
thing. I guess I play
nice.
keyboards and guitar on it, and Evan Marion, the bass player, he plays
Mhm.
bass on it, and Gavin. So it should be out in the spring if some things go according to plan.
So are you
Yeah.
like a proficient keyboard player?
I'm okay. I can get by. Just for my own stuff. I wouldn't put anybody through that for their music. For my
Mhm.
own, I can do what I like to
Do
do.
you
I've
play
I've
the
been
keys on
playing for
your
about
albums?
20 years. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. I've been playing. I'm 37 now, I guess. So when I was when I finished high school, I had been playing guitar for a while, and I found I started liking music that had nothing to do with guitar. Whether it was
Mhm.
you know film score or video game or classical something, whatever. So I wanted a piano, so I bought this cheap Casio keyboard. I think I was probably 17,
Mhm.
and just like guitar, I just kind of hacked on it until I kind of knew my way around a little bit, and it helped to kind of have somewhat understanding of harmony, so I could translate it over the piano. I see you've got a Nord there, so you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes it's just more fun to search
Yeah,
um,
because
instead of on a guitar. I
there's so
find
many
sometimes,
things you
yeah,
cannot do on guitar. You can't do. Uh,
yeah,
that doesn't
yeah,
happen so
yeah,
easily on a
that's right.
guitar. It's like
Yeah,
you got four
yeah.
miserable excuses for fingers.
For unevolved, pathetic,
Yes.
useless meat hooks. Um, so what about you? Okay, so you're doing the Patreon. I'm doing this record. Are you working on any music right now? What are you doing?
I'm working on new Scarguitar music and the new solo
Yes.
music because Patreon is like my main hub for most of what I do. Anything I can publish through Patreon is gonna try to do as many things exclusive or
Yeah.
early access, that kind of thing. Uh,
Yeah. I try to do that too. That's cool. That's cool.
but it's like this. I've done Patreon for like 9 weeks now, I think 9-10 weeks, and it's been a fair bit of work to get it started and to wrap my head around everything and find on my pace and figure out what people are actually like, what they prefer to get from me, because if there's no pointing me spending tons of time on doing stuff that they're not interested in.
Right. What have you found kind of works week to week right now for you? What do people kind of like, for your fans, what are they
Uh, I still, I
kind of
still,
liking
I
right now?
still don't really know, because a funny thing is, like, I have a
Yeah.
Discord server where people can participate, and you got one too, and I don't have everyone there yet. It's like half of my members have showed up there, and when I post things, and I suppose everyone in the chat pay attention here, because when I post things, lessons, and my Patreon posts, there's not a lot of interaction there. It's like the
Yeah.
occasional, like or a few comments, and it's like the same 5 or 10 people that are
Mm.
doing most of the commenting, and I've got 100 paying members and 400 members in total. That I was hoping for more feedback like that, because I can't measure it from the response I get
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's a tough one. I'm kind of in the same boat. I've had over the years, depending on when I was doing it, I've anywhere between 200 to 400, 500 paying members at any point. And even then, like sometimes nobody would comment. Like,
mhm.
I mean, I put something up and it just so, and that's not, I don't expect people to, but it's just interesting that you'll get comments on anything, like on anything. You see comments on people arguing over whatever, but you'll post this thing and you expect feedback, nothing. So it's fascinating. I wonder if it's just maybe people don't, it takes a little while to kind of come out of their shell to interact with you, or
Mhm.
they don't know yet what they're looking for. Um, it's interesting, I don't know. It's an ongoing study.
Yeah.
for me too.
A funny
You
thing, and something I've heard from other Patreon creators, that there actually are people out there that almost don't care what you post, because they like my music, your music, they like the stuff you do elsewhere. So they are not super picky with what you post on Patreon. They are like super happy to just provide what they can provide to support you. And so I've a friend of mine who does a Patreon told me that, and that kind of blew my mind. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of obvious that there are such people, and people have a few members have written to me and been saying things like that. We just want to, do whatever you want to do, and we're just happy to be here.
Yeah, I think that's ultimately, if I can say, I don't know, but I think that's ultimately what it comes down to. Is I think you have a relationship now. I've known you. I think I first started talking to you maybe like 2014, after you sent me a message after you checked out Atomic Mind. I remember.
Yeah, I think I sent you basically a love letter or something.
You did, yeah. And I was like, oh, this is a beautiful man.
Hello, this is awkward. I'm Swedish and I love you.
I was so young, man. I was so young. I was like 26 or something. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
But like we've all known you, and guitar players have known you for so long. This is like, I don't know, 15 years. I think a lot of people, they have such a connection. I maybe I'm saying this about myself too. Like, they have such a connection with your music that we can't even comprehend. So sometimes the fact that you can even offer a $5 connection is like, whatever you want to post, just give it to me. It could be something like that.
Yeah, sure.
It's interesting, but I do like the fact that the people that sign up and then actually stick around are sort of like, I've ended up doing one-on-one lessons with some of these people. I private message them. We talk about gear. It's like, it becomes almost like more like a friendship. I'm not quite sure what it is, because it's kind of a unique time for this. I don't know really what the fuck you would define that as.
Yeah.
But it becomes something a little bit more, and I think, I don't know, it's just like I'm carrying around in my pocket at any time these like strange relationships. I could open up my phone. Okay, here's a strange relationship. Here's a strange.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's cool. It's cool. But then when you mention maybe you're putting a new record out, some people get excited, and that feels nice. That's really what it comes down to, I think.
Yes. I think we should. I have a few questions from my VIP members.
Let's do it.
I have a VIP tier where people who are supremely kind and generous beyond
Awesome.
my wildest dreams. So they have like priority access to my guests to ask whatever they want, and I'm gonna.
Wonderful.
I'm gonna take them in the order that I received them. I think so. First, I have a few from Kaushik, who is my only private student right now. I have a private student, private lesson tier. So
nice.
So he's asking, do you frequently use the bridge pickup? Your solos in Remarkably Human, Poison Touch, etc. has that unique throaty, twangy tone.
That's going back a ways. What's going on there? That was all single coil, either bridge or neck. I mean, I was flipping through that thing. I used to play like Ingve and just, every 2 seconds play.
Yeah. Do you still do that?
So it could have been. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I look psychotic when I play guitar, man. I look like a fucking moron, dude.
It's so funny. My second guitar player in Scarguitar, Steven, he does that even when he's not plugged in. He can be, sitting in the dressing room, not plugged in, and he's like. And so if you're listening from outside of the room, you hear like the flick of the switch and not so much the playing.
Like, man, that guy's really rehearsing everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I used a lot of the bridge pickup. I was using a a Fender guitar. A friend of mine let me use his some custom shop guitar. It had these really really super low output
Mm.
pickups. I don't know what they were, but they sounded really great. Just even on that, they weren't shrill or anything. I think there's a song on there. What's one? If you listen to, just for the person who asked if you're listening, there's a song called "A Sick and Injured Brain," and there's a solo in the middle, and you can hear him on the split. Whatever fucking number that be, bridge and in between bridge and middle, whatever that was, number 4, number 2, whatever you call that.
Mm.
So sometimes in between too. You know, that record has a bunch of different amps too, so everything sounds, there's some trickery happening.
All
But
right.
I found because everyone's ear has kind of like shifted a little bit to digital. I found that the sound of a digital, if I use like a back pickup, like a single coil on a digital sound versus an amp, kind of has a different interaction too.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the amp sounds a little bit fuller, a little bit thicker. So could be that too.
Yeah, I don't do it a lot because I get that you do it to have a change of tone, but sometimes I feel, and maybe that's because I do digital so much, but sometimes I feel like the change in tone is too big to go from neck to bridge.
Right.
It's like it sounds too muffled.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. It can sound almost like sometimes like you're using a wah pedal too if the frequency change is too
Yeah.
much. It's like you're opening a wah. I watched Scott Henderson talk about that and how he would always on his strats roll his tone knobs back, just his back tone knob back, just in case he did go to the bridge, it wouldn't be
Ah.
so bridgy.
Yeah.
So he kind of like figured it. Anyway, yeah, you're right though. So to the VIP, there you go.
All right.
Good ear.
So next question: 2 things. I suppose it can be more or less things that you practiced the most in your earlier years. What was
Wow.
important when you were coming up?
Ah, God, I wanted so bad, and even now, and I genuinely have to work on this so much every day, and if I don't, I notice the dip. Is I wanted to just be able to play in time so bad. Like I'd play the stuff, and it just why does this sound like shit?
Mm-hmm.
It's just a little bit ahead or a little bit behind. Just finding, as a white boy, finding the pocket and like sinking into that pocket and trying to play with feel and swing and even in the beginning, listening like I had a old video camera or old tape recorder. I could hear myself back and just being like, this doesn't sound right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty much just been timing. I mean, I learned riffs and all the same shit everybody else learned, but once I started getting into the meat, like actually practicing guitar, more than 15 minutes a day, it really just kind of came down to timing. I always played with it. I always from the beginning played with a drum machine or something. Like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like the click as much just because it was like it's like I can only
Yeah,
click so much.
there's not
Whereas
there's
yeah,
not anything musical about
no, no,
a
there's nothing.
metronome.
So I found having a drum machine, even from the very beginning, like I don't know, 15 years old, as soon
Mm.
as I could understand that stuff, just trying to play in time, have good rhythm. Because I liked I guess in the beginning, I had a lot of friends that played too, and I found if I couldn't play in time, or if I was playing and they were playing on top of me, and I was playing in rhythm and they could play, cool. And then we'd switch and they'd play rhythm and I'd play lead. And if their timing was shit, it was immediately like,
Mm-hmm.
we can't jam. You gotta work on your timing. So
Yeah,
that
indeed.
that was always a big kind of obvious, yeah, an obvious thing for me. And even
Mm.
now, like I'm working on a bunch of stuff where it's just trying to lock in, just trying to lock it.
Yeah, but it's the best thing in the world when you're working with great drummers, so who take on a lot of
Yeah.
the responsibility.
Yeah. I'm sure that was wonderful when you were over your years playing with different people. There's probably been some standouts for sure.
For sure, yeah. And
Yeah.
so you can,
Um,
because I struggle with time, not so much when I play like metal rhythm. I think I did a good job doing that in Measure Guide. No one was
Yeah.
yelling at me, at least. But when I play leads, yeah, sometimes it's hard to keep up. It's like my brain is throwing out ideas that I'm chasing, and like most of the time I can nail the notes, but the time is suffering.
How did you go about kind of playing some of those like almost Holdsworth type of lines, like while kind of skirting around just straight rhythm? Like you have a way of sort of pulling things and pushing things. It's very liquid. Was that always
Yeah.
something even in your early days you were working on, or did that kind of come later?
I'm not really sure. It's something that's been evolving for a long time. I mean, I picked up the guitar 40 years ago. So when I was 10, so it's hard to remember exactly
So
when things happen.
that's so fucking long, man.
But I find it interesting that I feel like my playing is still evolving, even when I'm not working on it too much. It's still my playing is also growing older. So it's
Absolutely.
all right.
Starting to grow a beard a little bit.
Yeah. Next one. Your favorite artists and influences.
Oh man, I don't know, man. Those are tough ones. Um, Look, influences. The stuff. I guess when I was a kid, all the guitar stuff. Everybody listened to. I mean, I had a neighbor that played. I guess when I was real young, and I grew up in Canada. Maybe there's some crossover with Sweden, but like most young boys here play hockey. I don't know, maybe similar. There's a lot of hockey in Sweden. Um, so it wasn't until I met somebody that was like on planet Earth, like my dad
Mm-hmm.
listened to Zeppelin and Black Sabbath. Those guys are. I didn't know anybody could do that. I thought you had to be
Yeah.
a famous person to play music or something. But my neighbor, he moved in. He was a year older, and I heard him playing guitar from his basement. So I just walked over and asked him if I could play. So that was like where my first kind of like inspiration, where it just came from a guy who happened to have a guitar. So I found I didn't really I wasn't driven by other guitar players to practice. I was very like insecure. So like practice was more of a almost like a therapy, I guess, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But I got a little bit older and I started to discover more guitar players like Ingve, and I found all the Shrapnel guitar play, all that stuff.
Sure.
And then just all the evolution of that, and then I discovered Pat Metheny when I was 17, and he kind of changed my life, I guess, from a harmonic and just a conceptual, like. Still, I listen to his stuff and I just, oh man. So Pat was a big one, I guess. Steely Dan. I remember I got into Steely Dan when I was in my early 20s, I think, something like that. And I started touring. One of the first tours I went on was I went and played in Mexico for this thing. And I remember the guy was listening to Steely Dan, and I was like, what is, I kind of got into it, and it was like the right time because I was listening to a lot of that Shrapnel stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I heard all the harmony in Steely Dan, and it just kind of like pushed all the Shrapnel stuff. Get the fuck out of here. Like, what's the.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff, just I guess harmony, man. I'm just really interested. I don't care what genre. I don't care who does it. I really like, and I don't mean this to diminish the art. I like the math and I like the architecture. I fucking love the way when things are put together. There's like a marriage that happens. It's just so beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter what genre. Anytime, even if it's hip hop or whatever. It's, oh my god! So whoever's doing that.
All right.
Which is also why I love guys like Beethoven and Rachmaninoff and what's his face, Bernard Herrmann, all the Hitchcock stuff, just anyway, I'm rambling, but
Hmm.
there you are.
All right, I think it's a good segue to the next question. So now we have my VIP guy, Bob. Um,
Bob,
Since you have Nick Johnston as a guest this time, I think it would be a relevant topic to discuss non-diatonic chord changes, chromatic medians, and cinematic chord changes.
introduce everybody. My cat is right here.
All right. That's a furry,
Okay, so
furry dude.
he was very interested in what was happening. Okay, so he's asking about
So
harmony.
yeah, Bob is asking about harmony. Bob, I don't think Bob's here, but he sent the question. He's gonna watch this later. Yeah,
Okay.
so he wants us to discuss non-diatonic chord changes, chromatic medians,
Okay.
and cinematic chord changes, which is the cinematic stuff is sort of those things. So
Yeah.
I mean, you
Yeah.
have the song that something like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something like that. So that's like,
Yeah.
is it the right key? E minor,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then you hit us with
Exactly.
I guess
B flat.
sharp 4 major chord. Like
Yeah, I think
how do you think about that kind of thing? Where did that come from?
well, okay. If I boil it down, I guess okay, so I started playing guitar when I was about 14, and about a year in, I was really interested in recording. Like, I thought I was going to be either like an engineer, producer, or something. So I really wanted to get into that world. So I bought this little, and maybe you remember this. There was a little thing from Korg. It was called the PXR4. It was this little 4-track kind of mixer thing, and I started recording pretty early on, about 15. And I was always making instrumental music, and I kind of got to the point where I was just using the same 7. If I was in the key of D, okay, here's these 7 chords, and I just got to a point where I was just the melodies wasn't saying enough anymore with these 7 chords, so I had to
Yeah,
start
the
finding
drugs
ways
didn't
to
work anymore.
That's right. That's right, dude.
Mm.
Couldn't have said it better myself. The drugs didn't work anymore. So that just became my obsession. I don't think of it as, I mean, I know enough theory to kind of like, get out of a wet paper bed, but I don't think of it like cinematic chord progressions or chromatic median. I don't think about that shit. It's just that it's just harmony, and obviously you have to have a key center, and it helps because if you want to play with people and communicate, that's fine. But when it's just me in that kind of like the throes of composition, or you're just like trying to get shit together, it's wide open, and it's just notes, and it's music, and it's whatever happens. And I think the second, even though I'm aware of like what key I'm in and all this stuff, I'm aware of that. I put that like get in the back. It's in the back. If it's a car, it's in the trunk. I'm in the driver's seat.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that's all running, but I'm still thinking like anything goes. So I guess the theory is good for post-mortem, like post analysis, or real time analysis. Like if you're good enough to do that, so to speak, kind of like figuring out what you're doing, but it still should be, could be anything, or this can be anything. It just depends on how. It's really just manipulate. It's like anything. It's like if you're a good painter, you're really just good. You're good with that brush, and you're good with the colors. It's the same thing. It's like you're just good at manipulating these notes. You just get into that. And we've all heard guys. I mean, some of Meshuggah's music that you've played, like there's literally entire sections where nothing is in the same key. It's just this like scroll of music, and I'm just kind of obsessed with that. And typically the only way to satiate that urge is to break out of that 7 chord prison.
Yeah.
So that's where that came from. And then it's just to be really, really studious. Like if I hear anything that makes me go, what is that? I figure it out. I have to know.
Yeah.
And I steal it and I kind of, so that's a big part of it too. Yeah. So, yeah. So anyway, let's do maybe one or two more. Then I got to bounce, I think, pretty soon. Yeah. So maybe
I don't really have
we'll do one or two
all
more.
that much more. I have one, from Chris, why did you change your style suddenly after a few instrumental albums? Did you change your style suddenly?
Maybe, perhaps. I mean, the first 3 or 4 albums, the first 3 had no piano, it was just guitar, bass, and drums. Mm-hmm. By the time I got to Remarkable Human, I added keyboard, but the one I did after that, which was called Wide Eyes in the Dark, that thing was fucking dripping with synthesizers. Mm-hmm. That thing was just covered. It was just like throwing everything I could at it. Why the hell wouldn't I? Why wouldn't you change your style? Why not, man?
Yeah.
What the hell am I doing? Why
yeah,
not?
I mean the question kind of implies that it was a sudden
totally
change. And maybe I'm not as up to date with your catalog of music to see that. Maybe
and this is what's interesting too, and you know this too, is like by the time the person hears the music, that shit's old. I mean, you've like by the time the record comes out, you've lived with that song or those group of that record for like 2 years. So I guess I'll say to that point, like what maybe sounded sudden to the audience, if it's like one record to one record, the 2 years in between is like an eternity where I've made, hundreds I've had a change of heart, I've had a change of mind, I'm a different person. So much has happened.
You went through something, I think you met your wife, or you moved, or your pet died, or
that's that's right. Yeah. So
or you just got sick of yourself.
That's really what it comes down to. And much like yourself, or I'm not sure, I shouldn't assume anything, but I spend, this is my little studio room, I spend about, I don't know, 90% I spend all my time in here. So like I'm always trying new stuff. So I think it would be sort of a waste of my time to keep maybe doing the same thing over and over again. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I guess I'll end. I'll plug one thing if you don't mind. I see some people talking about,
of course,
some of the music. So I also finished. I kind of mentioned this to you, I think, at Guitar Summit. I'm doing for my 8th, 9th, and 10th record, my sort of like way to bookend those first 10 albums. I'm doing this 3-album trilogy. It's all one big concept, and I wrote sort of a book for each one, like a story for each one. And it's all going to kind of be in the same universe. It's my sort of like prog epic. Mm-hmm. And the first one will be out next year sometime. So I'll have the Gavin record, the solo one, and then there's this other thing I'm going to bug you about later, because I want to talk to you about the whole experience that you had.
Yes,
with Meshuggah and everything. So,
well, I think we must do this again. And next time, if you can figure out a way, we can talk about that later also, to figure out a way to plug your guitar in, and we can do some jamming, because we can do some.
Please, I gotta get a couple things. I gotta get a mic. Yeah, we gotta do that. I gotta ask you some questions.
Yeah,
some harmony questions too.
So hey, I'm gonna end the broadcast. Are you stick around? We can have a couple of minutes just to say goodbye in private. So everyone, awesome. Give a round of applause to Mr. Nick Johnston, the one and only.
Thank you, guys.
What a beautiful man. What a beautiful musician. I just love what you do. And okay.
Thank you, buddy.